Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am Christian Moe. Welcome to AutoTalk.com. Today we're going to be doing a driving review of the 2015 Subaru XV Crosstrek. The Subaru XV Crosstrek moves into 2015 with lots of enhancements, but no visual changes. The little crossover is little more than a high-riding version of the Impreza hatchback with some tougher plastic body panels around the edges. Still, the look is well executed, and I enjoy the angular design touches. The unique alloy wheels always catch my eye. I find myself drawn to the sharp headlights, squared-off taillights, and the silver paint looks great when it gets dirty. It may not be the prettiest car in its class, but at least it's visually interesting. It ends up looking both rugged and handsome. So, it is a Subaru. As many of you may know, I have a checkered past with a Subaru. There are some that I love, there are some that I loathe. And it's going to be sort of interesting, I think, for a lot of you to figure out which side of the pendulum I swing for this, the XV Crosstrek. Now first, let's start with the interior. If you've been in any modern Subaru, you have been basically inside of the XV Crosstrek. It looks pretty nice. Nice angles, nice design touches, you know, it looks good. But when you touch things, everything feels kind of cheap. Now, I will say, Subaru has done a lot better on this XV Crosstrek than some of the other Subarus I've driven. Like the old Impreza, on which this is based, I hate the interior of the Impreza. But Subaru has stepped things up here. I still have a big rubber wheel that feels kind of gross, but up here on top, instead of plastic, it's now padded, which is nice. Over here, it's padded. Top of the door panel is padded. I still get cheap, gross plastic right here around the door handle pull, but for the most part, they've got rid of the really nasty plastics and everything's nice and padded. Here on the armrest, a little bit of like fake leather with some silver stitching. That's nice. Up here, cloth and padded. We have nice cloth up here on top, but you still get the plastic on the A-pillar. But again, overall, it is nicer than most general Subaru interiors. Like I said, having the padding up top is a huge improvement. Having the padding here on the doors, huge improvement. The silver trim, it's here on the door and it's here on the dash, feels nicer than it used to. I don't know if it's a different paint or thicker plastic, but it feels nicer than it used to. Things that I love, like these big knobs here on the front, they're just plastic, but they're knurled and look like they're metal. They feel great, nice solid clicks to them. Like that's the sort of stuff Subaru got right. Also for this car, this has their all-new Starlink 7-inch system. So it's a Starlink 7 radio, nice big screen, it's a touch screen, I can move around, I can hit things, and it works. It looks nice, good resolution, responds fairly quickly, tap a button, comes on, works, I like it. It has some app stuff in it, you can get satellite radio, you can get navigation, does traffic, weather, stuff like that. So everything you would want in a modern car, it's here. And it works, and it looks nice. And I've got a knob for volume and a knob for tuning, which they used to not have, and it drove me nuts. So thank you, Subaru, for fixing your infotainment system. This new Starlink 7 system works great, looks great, love to use it, it's fantastic. So the steering wheel, a little gross the way it feels, but I like the way it's shaped, I like the thickness of it. I've got covered in buttons. All the buttons have a function, they're easy to see, they're easy to use, I like that. There's just lots of sort of good stuff. Cloth seats, love cloth seats. I don't like leather, so keeps costs down. A little easier to clean, I think. I enjoy that. Yeah, overall, like as far as the Subaru interior is concerned, this is one of my favorites. It doesn't look as cool as like the STI with the fancy red carbon fiber everywhere and, you know, the name stitched in the seats. But for a functional car that I would buy and use every day, this is one of the nicest interiors I've had in a Subaru in years. So, bravo, Subaru. But why don't we go ahead and see how this thing drives. Before we talk about how a Subaru is to drive, let's talk about the greasy bits that make it move. Situated in front of my 2 feet somewhere is a tiny little 2-liter engine. It is an FB series engine from Subaru. It is still a Boxer 4, so it's 2 pistons on this side, 2 pistons on this side, and they're across from each other. So this horizontally opposed engine makes 148 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque. Attached to that is a CVT. that has been improved for 2015. Subaru has given it new shift logic to make it feel more like it has real gears when you're really hammering on it. And I have nice little paddle shifters here so I can pick some fake gears if I want to. Getting after that, there is an electronic all-wheel drive system. Subaru is still using the symmetrical all-wheel drive system, but this is not the same mechanical viscous coupling that used to be in the old Subarus that gave you 50-50 power split. This is an electronically controlled system that is almost always front-wheel drive, and then it sends power to the rear when it needs to. That saves you fuel economy. Subaru says thanks to the smaller engine and the efficiency of the CVT transmission that this sucker will do 34 miles to the gallon on the highway. Now they say it'll only do 26 in the city and that you should get 29 combined. My combined average has been right around 30, so not too terrible. It's slightly better than what they say you'll get, but I've not been in the city that much. Still, for being a car with almost 9 inches of ground clearance and all-wheel drive, it's fairly fuel efficient. So part of that comes down to the shape, part of that comes down to the engine, and then part of that comes down to this transmission with the electronically variable all-wheel drive. But enough about that crap. Let's actually talk about how it is to drive. So first thing, we're sitting here on the highway making a nice cruise. And again, you might think that's sort of a weird place for me to be testing a Subaru, but it's not. Subaru sales have increased constantly, even during the terrible, terrible 2009 year of car sales. From 2009 to 2012, Subaru was one of the only car companies that posted positive sales every month, month after month. They did good. Lots of normals are buying Subarus, and lots of those people are using them to commute. And Subaru's giving you technology to do that with. So right now, my feet are not touching the gas pedals because I have cruise control, but not just normal cruise control. Thanks to this chunk of plastic, electronics, and cameras up here, I have adaptive cruise control thanks to Subaru's EyeSight system. So this is now available for 2015 in the XV Crosstrek on the 2.5i and 2.5 premium models, and it actually works pretty good. The first time I came in contact with an EyeSight system was back in 2012, and I thought it was a bit hokey, bit buggy, didn't work as well as I wanted to, and I kept it shut off. This one I keep on. So these two pair of cameras give me adaptive cruise control. They give me lane departure warnings. They also allow me to have crash avoidance assistance. So the cameras see cars ahead of me, and then there are stereo cameras that see in 3D, so they can tell how close I am to a car. When I get close, the car will slow me down, so I have my cruise control set now. If somebody pulled out in front of me, I would slow down. If somebody gets out of my way, I will speed back up to my cruise control speed. And it works great. It's really slow and non-invasive, so like when somebody pulls in front of me, the car will just gradually slow me down. It won't come screeching to a halt, which is nice. And I've not tried to crash into anything, so I don't know how good the crash avoidance technology works. But I've not had it mess up and try to stop me for no reason yet. So that I will give it bonus points for. So overall, it's just kind of a nice thing to be in. CVT is fine. The engine's good enough. It's not a ton of power, but it's enough power to get you underway. And you just sort of sit back and relax. Suspension, for being a big, chunky off-roading kind of car, nice, fairly supple actually. It eats through the bumps. I don't have a lot of issues. It's a little loud in here would be my biggest complaint for like highway cruising, but beyond that, that little beep means there's now a car ahead of me, so I'm going to slow down slightly. But yeah, it's a little loud, but aside from that, I'm okay. Seats are a little stiff, but that's good for long distance driving. It's just good. Like, I know that's not a lot to say, but that's sort of how Subaru has built this thing together. There's nothing about it that is dramatically interesting or amazing aside from the EyeSight system, but there's nothing about it that's glaringly wrong either. If you just want a car to commute and you want something that's fuel efficient and has all-wheel drive, this is a great choice. We already talked about the interior, which I think is pretty nice for being a Subaru interior. Ride quality, big expansion joint there going over a bridge. It's fine. Everything about this car is just good. Nice, comfy. I like the infotainment system. I like the fancy EyeSight tech. I like having big knobs for my climate control. Air conditioning blows cold. I've got heated seats if I want them. Just sit back, relax, and drive to work. Now, if you don't want to just sit back, relax, and drive to work, if you want to have a little bit of fun, the XV Crosstrek will play ball. So yeah, that was kind of fun. You see, Subaru's always been, we're a rally car company and we make rally cars. And you see, this little crossover is actually based on the Impreza, which is also the same backbone they used to build the WRX and the STI. So this has some fancy little tricks in it that make it really nice to drive, even if you're acting like a total jackass in a big muddy field. So first off, let's start with the steering. For 2015, Subaru gave this car a much quicker rack than the old one did. So it takes very little motion to get the front end to move. It actually is almost as quick, it feels, as the BRZ. So very nice, quick, darty front end. Steering wheel weighting is good, although feedback is pretty non-existent. But I'm giving up on feedback because electric power steering systems are trying to ruin my life. But beyond that, since steering is kind of good. Suspension-wise, this car has a legitimate suspension that can handle actual hard driving. Out back, you will find true double wishbone suspension. So this has actual good suspension that you can sort of sling a car around and it will behave. Now, because of the ride height and the softness of the springs give it that comfy ride, there is a fair bit of body roll. But that fair bit of body roll means when you're caning it over uneven surfaces, those wheels can bounce and react quickly and keep the car relatively level, bouncing over hard surfaces. So it makes sense in that context. But while this car is fun to drive and you can do things like you just saw, it's not a canyon carver. So I would say on the performance scale, this car is like a 6/10, maybe a 7/10 car. If you find a good, fun, twisty road, and you're not afraid of anyone in your car getting sick, you can hammer down a twisty road pretty well. The four-wheel independent rear with the dual wishbones out back actually provide a fair bit of grip. So even though the body rolls and heaves a lot, there's not as much understeer as I was expecting. The front end stays relatively planted, and having the all-wheel drive system that can shuffle power forward and back helps keep things moving and helps keep, dynamically the car where you want it to be. So I do enjoy that. It's kind of a fun car to drive. And I think that's my most favorite part about this car is I used to be a huge fan of Subarus. I owned an Outback for a while and I loved that car. It felt different. It felt special. It felt interesting. I had this big, long family wagon, but it sat low and it had a manual transmission and the engine liked to rev. And it just felt fun. It felt like it wanted me to race it. It had that rally car heritage that Subaru talks about all the time. Like, it sort of felt like it had that. I think a lot of new Subarus are missing that. The new Impreza just feels like a big Honda Civic. It does. The new front-wheel drive all the time, all-wheel drive system in that car, it doesn't feel like a Subaru. It's missing that special magic. Same thing with the new Outback. The new Outback just feels like a big family crossover. There's nothing special about it that makes me go, this is a Subaru. But this has that kind of magic. I know you just saw me bouncing around a muddy field like a jackass. And yes, I was doing that for fun, but I did that for fun because this car made me feel like it could do that and it kind of wanted to do that, if that makes sense. Like, this is a car that feels playful. It doesn't feel sporty, but it feels playful. It feels interesting. It feels different. It feels like it wants you to go out and have an adventure. And that's what Subarus have always had, but lately they've sort of gotten away from that. So I'm just pleased as punch and excited as hell that I'm back in a car that has a Subaru badge that feels like a Subaru. And if you want it to feel even more like a Subaru, get the manual transmission. With the manual transmission model, you have the old school all-wheel drive system. So I mean, like, it really feels good. It really feels interesting. It's just a Subaru through and through, and I love it for that. Now, there are some problems. Like I said, some of the interior is still cheap. There's some squeaks and rattles. Said it's pretty loud in here. But this car only costs $25,000. Like this one as it sits with all the options. This is the limited trim or the premium trim. Like this is the most expensive one you can get or whatever. I've got the eyesight system. Like I've got lots of options in here. I've got navigation with the upgraded stereo, all that sort of stuff. And it's $25,500. Like that's pretty cheap. I have a punchy little flat 4 engine. I have all-wheel drive, and I'm still getting 30 miles to the gallon. You saw what I just did in that field. Like, you can drive it like that, but it's also been a pretty good commuter car. Like, I loved Subarus because they were a do-all, go-anywhere sort of car that felt fun and different. And this XV Crosstrek has that same feel. It feels fun, it feels different, it looks funky. You know, it's raised up real high. I've got the black fender well, stripes. Like, it's just cool. It's different. I like it. I like the big plastic bumpers. I like how it looks like it's a machine designed for a purpose. I like how it feels like a machine that's designed for a purpose. Subaru has been trying to turn their cars more and more vanilla every year to bring in more and more mainstream sales. This feels like a big, huge, chunking bowl of like Rocky Road ice cream, and I love the hell out of it for that. So it is fuel efficient, it is safe, it is comfy, it is well priced. Like, this is a hell of a car. I got to the point where after loving Subarus more than almost anything else, I promised myself I'd probably never buy a Subaru again. I would buy an XV Crosstrek. I would. Like, I like this car a lot. I like having cloth seats and a wiped down dash and carpet that's nice and tight knit so it's easier to get the dog hair out of. Like, I love that sort of stuff. I love how functional this is. I like how open the cabin is. I like how much glass there is. I can see everywhere. It's all of those good things. And I'm just happy Subaru built it. If you own an old Subaru, if you've got like an Impreza or a WRX or an Outback, a Forester from like 2005, something like that. If you love your car and you want a new Subaru, come look at this one. Because everything you love about your old Subaru is here. This has it. Hands down, I have driven the Impreza, I've driven the Legacy, I have driven the Outback, I have driven the STI, I've driven the BRZ. This is my favorite Subaru. This one. This is the one I want. This is the one I would buy. This is my favorite Subaru because it's the one I've been in that feels the most like an old school Subaru, and that appeals to me in so many ways. When you see those commercials, people going camping, loading up their dogs, like, this is the kind of car they want. This is the feeling they're going for. Hey, my crash avoidance system is trying to stop me from crashing from people not driving the way they're supposed to up there ahead of me. So this is, like I said, it's just a wonderful thing to be in, and I really enjoy it. So if you're looking for a Subaru, this is the Subaru you want. Anyways, quick recap. Subaru XV Crosstrek. Feels like a Subaru. 2-liter flat 4, 25 grand, 30 miles to the gallon. I dig it a lot. I think it's cool. I think it feels nice. I think it looks interesting, even if it is kind of ugly in a weird way. Overall, it's just a good car. So thank you guys for tuning in. Again, I'm Christian Moe. This has been a review for AutoTalk.com. If you like this video, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, please give us a thumbs down. Go ahead and head down in those comments to let us know what you liked and what you didn't. We want to make these videos better for you, and the best way to do that is with your input. So thank you again for tuning in. I will see you guys next week.